Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is the 21st of October 2016, and we're going to try to plow through this as best we can. Woke up this morning, it's actually technically Saturday, don't tell anybody. And, just a sore throat and just a screaming headache. So I don't know if that was just because the temperature changed and it was kind of cold last night. Didn't turn the heat on before going to bed, and so it was a little chilly this morning, or I'm just actually getting my chance with the cold that my wife and my kids had last week. But we're going to try to go through this as best we can, even though, frankly, I'm having trouble focusing literally on the camera because my splitting headache. But we will prevail and persevere. We have some kit announcements to talk about. We got some December and January things from overseas, as well as a slew of kit releases, so let's just pile right on into it. For December, these are some Aoshima spot runs they announced this week, and they are the Nissan Silvia S15 Spec R, the Nissan Skyline hardtop 2000 Turbo RSX. That's an R30, which would technically be like two generations of Skylines before the GTR would come back as the R32. They're going to reissue the Liberty Walk Hakasuka four-door, and this is going to be the race tribute one, the white car that's a four-door late 60s, early 70s Skyline. That's kind of an interesting situation considering the fact that all of the Liberty Walk kits that were supposed to come out a couple of months ago on reissue still haven't shown up, so they may all just show up in one great big batch at this point. They're going to reissue the Subaru Sambar High Roof, much like the Subaru Sambar High Roof Akabar truck that's going to be reissued next month in November. This is the same kit without the decal tie-in, basically, to the business. And again, it's an old Best Car Vintage, formerly motorized kit and all that nonsense. It's not the new small K car version that they made a few years ago. Reissue of the Toyota Corona Hardtop 2000 GT. That's another Best Car Vintage kit. This sort of fits into one of those scenarios we've talked about in the past where it's not a really particularly good kit, as none of those old 70s, 80s Japanese kits tend to be. However, if you want a Toyota Corona from like 1973, it's the only game in town. They're going to reissue the Toyota AE86 Truno in its Nuremberg 2 race spec, sort of a tribute. It's not really a race car. It does have like street tires and stuff like that, but otherwise it's got all the body panels and stuff like that from that race spec conversion. And they're going to be reissuing the AE86 Truno for the Initial D Project D version, which is again the middle of the three kits. You got your Volume 1 comic book, you've got Project D, and then Volume 37 on the end, which is, of course, as we talked about, the one that has all of the parts and pieces inside of it. And then, oops, we flipped over, but not flipping the page. We got to flip the page into January of 2017. And now we got Fujimi and Aoshima here. So we'll do Fujimi real quick because these are, of course, reissues. They're going to be reissuing two kits in a new series called Yoroshiku Mechadoc, which is another manga comic book over there. This one, I haven't actually looked the manga up, but I think it's a brand new one because I've never heard of it before, and not like I'm an expert on Japanese manga by any stretch of the imagination. However, usually when stuff has a backstory to it, Initial D, Circuit Wolf, stuff like that, they've done it before. This is the first two kits from the series. Be interested to see if this series continues, or it's just going to be like a one-time shot like those high school fleet thing that they're doing with the garage and the Fiat 500. But at any rate, in this new manga, you're going to get a reissue of the Isuzu Piazza and the Toyota Celica XX, which we wouldn't recognize here in the United States as the Toyota Celica Supra. Both the kits are old kits. They're both curbside. They're both I think they both have the same chassis plate, to be honest. I'm not positive on that because I don't think I've actually seen the two compared to one another as far as just the two chassis plates. But it's from that era where Fujimi made a bunch of cars on the same generic chassis. And that way, just, you didn't have to tool up a lot of stuff. You just need a new body to put on it. The Piazza hasn't been out for a really long time. It's got to be probably at least maybe 3 or 4 years since the last issue of the Piazza. Most people recognize the Isuzu Piazza, just generally speaking, if you were to talk about it, because it was one of those kits that testers reboxed back in the, what is that, late 80s, early 90s, when they were reboxing a whole slew of Fujimi kits, as well as Italeri stuff, and everything in those sort of great big yellow boxes. They did a reissue of it back then. In that, and like I said, I'd have to go look to see when the last time the Piazza was reissued, but it's been a while. And then outside the manga tie-in, they're going to be reissuing the Daihatsu Midget 2 once again, which is the tiny, tiny little K truck. This time as a Japan, I want to say Japanese, but it's Japan Post mail vehicle. So this gives you a sort of a built-in camper shell, for lack of a better term, for the pickup bed. The Daihatsu Midget 2 reissues from a year and a half ago were just the pickups. This has sort of a camper shell or a van body to it, but I'm pretty sure that that van body assembles and just, inserts into the pickup bed rather than it being a completely new piece. And then Aoshima announced some kits for January 2017. A lot of these were termed to be new kits because all of these things are reboxings into their new series of kits. So we have some tuned model car, some the model car, and some tuned parts. So the model car, the factory stock stuff, sees a reissue of the 1971 Nissan Skyline GTR. Again, their Skyline's really not that much to write home about compared to, of course, the Tamiya kit. Reissue of the 1991 Nissan Laurel Club S. This one does have an engine insert. It's not an engine, it's an engine insert. It's been about a year since that was last reissued. Reissue of the 2010 Subaru Impreza WRX STI 5-door hatch. I think the last time that was reissued, it was pre-painted. And then the one that really caught my eye, because it really hasn't been out for a really long time now, is the 1991 Mitsubishi Delica Space Wagon. Mitsubishi built a series of them, and Toyota did a bunch of four-wheel drive vans too, but Mitsubishis were like big, beefy 4x4 style vans because they have big wheels and a push guard on the front and all sorts of stuff like that. There are two kits that Aoshima did in that sort of series, if you will, about the van. There's the Space Wagon and then the Space Gear. The Space Gear is a more rounded, full-size van that looks, I always say, it looks like a off-road potato. The Space Wagon is a much more boxy style, cab over engine style van. If you remember the Toyota minivan we got here in the United States in the 1980s, looks something like that. But it's just a cool kit because they were four-wheel drive and they have great big knobby off-road tires and stuff in it. So that's cool to have back. I'll definitely gotta order one of those. And then in the tuned car series, you get a reissue of the top secret Nissan Skyline R34 GTR and the Toyota JZX 100 Tourer 5 in its Kuni Z. It's kind of hard to make sure you pronounce that right, or else it makes it sound like you're saying something completely, totally different and dirty. The Kuni Z drift car version. And then in the tuned parts series, which of course is going to be wheels and things like that, you got reissues of the 18-inch Volk Racing TE37 RTs, the Graham Light 57 Extremes, the Work Emotion CR, and the Work Meister S1. We've just plowed through that real quick because if you've been watching the Stash Project for any length of time, you of course realize that is like the second or third time those four wheel sets, they're in a, to describe it the best way, Aoshima does their wheel sets in groups of 4. Okay, there's always 4 sets of wheels that are all released with the same set of decals and the same set of sort of basic instructions. And those 4 wheels that we just said, the Volks, the Grahams, and the 2 Works, they're all in the same set of 4 wheels. So that's why you see wheel sets get reissued in groups of 4 by Aoshima. Inside, one of those the more you know kind of things. But those ones have been reissued a number of times because they're very, very popular wheels. They're 18-inch, which puts them under a lot of Aoshima stuff, like the WRX STI, Mitsubishi Evo 10. It could go underneath either Well, yeah, I was gonna say they don't. Yes, they do. Aoshima makes R35 GTRs. They under R34 GTRs, R35 GTRs. It fits under a bunch of different things, so they're obviously reissued on a regular basis. So that takes us, as I throw this down over here, make sure I don't drop it, to the kit releases for this month. So there are stuff from sort of all over the world this month. You got the United States. You've got Japan, you've got France, and Italy. So, starting in the United States, over here on the domestic side of things, we saw the releases we sort of expected to see, and then there's one release we'll talk about first because it's just sort of a singular thing that I didn't get a chance to tell you about because I forgot. It was really not I didn't get a chance, just completely forgot. Round two, and you remember this month for October, round two had the Larry Fulton Funny Car from NPC, and that was their only car release this month. They later subsequently added this kit to it, and then between me forgetting to tell you last week, and now it's come out. So AMT has released the 1961 Chevy Impala SS. This is not an old AMT kit. This is the old Lindbergh kit. Old Lindbergh kit from the 1990s. They have basically just taken that kit, boxed it into an AMT box, which I think they're going to sort of do more often with those with those newer old Lindbergh tools, if that makes any sense. All the stuff that Lindbergh did during the Craft House years in Toledo, the 53 Ford, the 61 Impala, the, let's see, what else? The 64 Dodges and stuff like that. Because you've already seen the 64 Dodges start coming out in the AMT boxings with the Lawman reissue, and they're going to be reissuing another one of those drag kits here pretty soon. No definitive date on that, though. But let me get back into my notebook of knowledge so I can read you details here. You're going to have, of course, a new boxing that's sort of a completely new box art, but it fits in with the sort of retro trend, of course, that Round 2 is famous for, because obviously this kit is not an AMT kit, so there's no existing box art to put it to, and they weren't going to put it to the old annual box art because, well, that's not what the kit is. You've got, of course, new decals in here, and then they've the tires that they tooled up recently for another kit, which just literally left my mind. I wanted to say it was the Lawman, but it's not that. They recently tooled up a set of American torque thrust wheels, or torque thrust. I'm tripping all over this wheel brand, so just look at the picture. They'd retooled those wheels. Those are not the wheels out of like the 62 Impala, which look similar. They've retooled these wheels for another kit, and I can't, like, it's like, life of me, I can't think of what it is. But those are new wheels in there. Of course, it has the regular factory stock wheels in there, but it's got the optional 5-spoke mag wheels. And then over to Revell. Revell released their two kits for this month, and they are the reissue of the Chevy Beretta Pro Stock, or the Pro Street, I guess technically would be the thing, since it was an actual race car. The sort of downfall, or a little bit of a thing about this kit that makes it not, to me, worth purchasing a second time, because one of the things I had way back when is the fact that it's on the old Doberman chassis out of that J2000 drag car. So that chassis was very, very specific to the Doberman's car, and in the process, it has a fixed rear axle where it's literally just bolted to the floor and it doesn't move, because the Doberman's car was never an actual race car. It was a show car. And I understand the reason why they did it. The Corvette Pro Stock Pro Street has the same chassis underneath of it. It just allowed them to recycle a bunch of parts. Now, the engine is slightly different in the Beretta than it is in the Doberman. The Doberman's was had its carbs on the top of the intake. The Beretta has side draft carbs, so it's kind of a cool period engine. I will give it that. But for a functionality sense, the Beretta is half cooked, like so many Revell things, because it's just trying to save money. And then, of course, the thing that isn't saving any money because it's brand new tooling is the brand new tool kit, the 71 to 73 Ford Bronco. Now, if you're like most people, you're like, well, there's no year on the box, and they didn't specify a year. If you get the instructions for this kit, when you're getting to the part where we're installing the air cleaner on top of the engine towards the end of the build, you get instructions on how to convert it to a 1973, which basically you take the snorkel off the front of the air cleaner and you put it off over to the side. As the part comes to you, it is listed as a 1971. So this is what this is, because of course the Bronco was made for what, like 10 or 12 years there, with basically no differences other than marker lights and stuff like that. There were, law changes. A lot of things didn't require side marker lights, and then of course they did it as the 60s and 70s moved along. So this is supposed to be a 71 and or a 73. You know what? It doesn't look necessarily terrible. I haven't seen one in person, but I've seen a lot of pictures of them because I just haven't had a chance to run out and check to see if my guy has them. My guy was not getting them in early release this month because this month, Revell, if you belong to that preferred partner program that they do that gets you the kits like a week and a half before everybody else does, was force shipping out a bunch of Revell of Germany's Star Wars kits, and my guy sells just automotive, and he didn't want any part of that, so we'll have to wait till literally, next week, the end of the month, before he'll get them in. So I haven't seen mine in person, but I've seen a lot of pictures. They did tool up new tires for this thing. They are directional tires, which technically wouldn't have been something that the truck would have had way back when, but it might be old enough that it would. It's one of those things where directional tires like that sort of came into being in the 70s, so it's not too far out of the range of possibility, and they look good. There's nothing wrong with them. A lot of people will be like, well, they didn't have directional off-road tires in the 60s. Well, technically, it's a 71 to 73, so we're going to just side skirt that problem. That's how Revell does things. If you've never noticed, if a problem comes up with their stuff and they can fix it by just changing the details without changing anything in the kit, yeah, that's what they do. Sort of like the whole the Copo Nova that doesn't really exist. Let's see. That is the U.S. side of things. I will be getting a Bronco, despite just joking around with the details. The box art is horrendous. And it continues into the box art being on the front of the instruction sheet. But the model itself actually looks like it's pretty good. I don't think that box art's going to sell anybody anything, but if you wanted a Bronco for a long time, especially a first-gen Bronco, well, you couldn't care if they wrapped it in, like black and white polka dot paper with a pink bow on it. You still buy it. So like I said, that takes us over to Asia. We go over to Japan first, where we have a couple of reissues of things and one new kit. Excuse me while I take a drink of water to get my voice back. First up, the new kit is the B-Max Honda Civic EF3 Group A race car, this time in a 1988 modal livery. You'll see there on the box it says 2-in-1 decals, because you can build this kit with the 1989 modal livery as well. Very minor striping change, really, that changed it. The paint job is different, but the decals are very simple as far as what the change is. Basically, they sort of flip-flop the colors. Everything that's white is red. This is just a reissue of the Pia liveried car, the original EF3. However, that kit sold out within probably a month and a half of it being put on the market. So this is effectively the reissue that a lot of people have been waiting on for months and months and months. Probably about 6 months now that those kits have been out of stock. I don't know that this kit is going to sort of begat a reissue of the Pia car. I mean, the two kits are content-wise are identical to one another. There's absolutely not a single new piece or part in this new kit. It just has new decals. So if you're waiting on the Pia reissue, you might want to cancel that and just order this instead. It's the same price, and unless you wanted that Pia livery specifically for something, then you don't need it. And if you need a Pia livery, I'll get you one, because I got like 4 of the Pia kits, and I'm only going to use the decals out of one set of it. Then we go over to Aoshima, where we had well, they're not really the tuned car, but they would be if they were in that brand, but they're tuner kits here. And they are the reissue of the A86 Sprinter Truno in the Car Boutique Club boxing, for lack of a better term. This is almost a livery, but there really aren't any decals for this. Other than the different ground effects and the Volt TE37s and a carbon fiber-ish decal for the hood, this is pretty much as close to a factory stock Truno as you're going to get, and still have it be sort of like a little bit out there in the tuner world, if you will. There is no engine in this kit like there is in the initial D kit, so it is a complete and total curbside. Next up, you have the Honda Beat in the RS Mock Tuner company. This is actually the Beat kit that I have. I don't have the little factory stock one because I didn't. When that came out, I was like, oh yeah, I just don't see building two Honda Beats, and I like this tuner version better. It's the Honda Beat kit, of course, with just some ground effects, a new front bumper, new wheels, and a bunch of decals and stuff like that. It's a cool little kit, regardless of what version you get. And then last, you get a reissue of the Nissan Skyline R34 GTR in the C West tuning version here. So again, new bumper, new hood, new wheels, big back spoiler, and stuff like that from the regular R34 kits that they've done. And then, finally, from Aoshima, we see the first of the tuned parts series, and they reissue of 4 sets of wheels. I find very ironic about these wheels. No, we threw them up on the screen during the October compilation video because just saying wheel brands don't really, and types don't really, give a good validation as to what the thing is. Because, how many people really know what these wheels look like just by calling their names out? I mean, the wheel nuts do, of course, but the rest of the common folk probably don't. But I will say, as we look through these box arts, real quick here, none of these kits are available except the Safari, which is on the first thing we're going to show you here. All the rest of these kits are long out of production. So using them as backgrounds on new box art amuses me greatly because unless you plan to reissue these kits, I don't know why you're using them for examples because they're kind of hard to find in some cases, especially the glorious Cedric kits. Anyway, first up is the RS Watanabe 8 spokes. These are the flat-faced Watanabes, as they're known, within the wheel nut community because they don't have any kind of dish to them the way a regular Watanabe works. And in the background there's an A81 Safari, which, of course, Aoshima will be reissuing in its factory stock form, not this sort of tuner S parts version that's in the background. But, at least that kit exists, easily findable. And then you have the BBS Type RGs, sort of a traditional 80s mesh BBS wheel that you see on so many things from the 1980s when BBS mesh was all of the rage. And then you have BBS Type RS2s, slightly less meshy mesh wheel. And then you have the BBS Type DTM, and these are the wheels that you would find on a lot, of course, of DTM race cars. I'm trying to think of specifically what kit these are in. There's a smaller version of these in the the smaller version of these in one of the Daihatsu Copen kits. This is also, I believe, the same wheel that comes in the Mitsubishi Evo 10 Final Edition because it is a BBS wheel, and I believe that's what it is. I haven't set them side by side to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's the same BBS wheel. And there's a couple of BBS kits out there that have this wheel, like race car kits, but this, of course, designed for a street car kit. But yeah, again, none of those BBS cars that are in the background there, none of those kits are available. And they're kind of hard to find, especially in the format that they're showing. That tuned parts glory, that's a Cedric there on the DTM. Yeah, that's a pricey kit if you can find it. And that takes us overseas. And we're going to touch on these kits only because they are officially available and I can find them, meaning that if you go look, you can find them too. Some of them are going to be a problem to obtain. You're going to have to obtain them either directly from the manufacturer or, hunt them down on eBay the way I did, or wait for them to come into stock someplace. First up, in the kit that will be the easiest for us to find here in the United States, is the Italeri reissue of the old SE tooled Ford Transit Mark II. This kit is from the early 1980s. It's curbside, but I think the back doors and the driver and the front doors open on this. If I'm totally wrong, I know there's a guy in the fine country of Ireland who's going to correct me in the comments. But yeah, it's curbside, and there are several panels that open. The one thing that doesn't open is sort of the side slider door. It's been gone for a long time as far as the kits being reissued by Italeri. They did reissue them a couple of times, but not recently. The old SE tools or tooled kits, had several box arts. There's like a rally version of this in the sense of like the old weird truck rally stuff they used to do. Many versions of this kit exist. However, good luck finding any of them. Most of them are in an attic in Ireland, as it turns out. But beyond that, they're just really, really expensive kits to find. And now, with one fell swoop of a injection molding machine in the fine country of Italy, your kit value has been destroyed. Yes. And then we have 3 kits here from Heller. Now, these are the ones you're probably going to have to obtain from Heller or eBay. I've seen the Vista Stella and the Delage D8SS put on pre-order, basically, at Hobby Search. When they come closer to being in stock in Japan, they'll probably go on pre-order on Hobby Link Japan as well. The Ferguson tractor is like, I don't know where. I've seen it on a couple of eBay things, and Heller itself has it, but I think Hobby Search has it for pre-order as well. The thing about Heller kits and why they're so hard to find is that Heller apparently doesn't feel that anyone outside of France either wants or deserves their model kits. But beyond that, in a global sense, their distribution just sucks. They were distributing through Stevens International here in the United States. That's why it's fairly easy to find certain Heller reissues, like the Jaguar kits. They're all over the place, but they didn't have a real steady reissue, thing of that. And I think a lot of retailers are kind of hesitant to stock the kits because Heller kits, while not bad in a stretch of the imagination, and the new kits are actually pretty nice. They're definitely, in a top 5 tier kind of kit. It's not just basement dwelling stuff by any stretch of the imagination. Heller sort of has that reputation of being unbuildable because so many of their things are multi-paneled bodies and things like that. The new kits, for the most part, other than the Citroen HY van, which is great big, we talked about corrugated bread boxes, it's kind of hard to mold that into one piece. The new kits, they're not multi-piece, and they're just as detailed as anything else. That's just it's not Tamiya, but it's within running with Revell and everybody else. But they just don't distribute them here, and like I said, I think retailers are kind of hesitant to hold them, and my cats are fighting over there, if you can hear that. But in order to be distributed into Japan, where I was trying to go with this before I was interrupted, is the GSI Krios. Is the one that distributes them in Japan, and for whatever reason, they don't seem to get them for like 6 months until after they're released. Cat's not happy. So anyway, let's go through these real quick. Again, as a reissue of the Renault Vista Stella, this is sort of always called the hot rod of France in the sense that it kind of sort of looks like a 32 Ford. It's 167 pieces, so it's probably a multi-piece body. I don't have a Vista Stella, so I couldn't tell you for sure, but again, many parts and pieces there. I've gotten several of the reissues of these old kits, and they're no worse for wear than they were originally. So they, the molds seem to be either stored real well, still holding up, or they haven't been reissued all that many times because Heller keeps going through various buyouts, sort of the way that around AMT did there for a little while, and Revell. Everybody's done a bunch of bouncing around in their lives as far as who owns them, and in the process, a bunch of stuff just doesn't come back out. I think the last time the Vista Stella was reissued was back when Humbrol first bought out Heller, and that's going back quite a while because that whole partnership went bankrupt 5-10 years ago at this point. Reissue of the Delage D8SS. This again another 100+ part reissued kit, and then the brand new tool Ferguson TE20 Petite Gua, the little gray tractor. So this is a brand new tool kit. I know there are other TE Ferguson tractors out there. Really recently, just one reissued, or not reissued, but new tool come out in 1/35th scale as a U.S. Army tractor. But this is the Ferguson tractor from right after World War II. So this would be like a 1946, 1947 tractor. And, again, it's 100+ pieces. So a lot of detailing in this kit, being a new tool kit. The guy who runs Heller now from Tamiya. So not necessarily Tamiya quality, but at least the Tamiya building concept, engineering, design thing is there. So I'm looking forward to getting one. I haven't pulled the trigger on one yet just because I have some stuff coming in from Hobby Link Japan. I have like 4 of those Civics and stuff like that. So, money has to go where money has to go first. But I definitely will be picking up probably all 3 of those because I'll take the 2 old kit reissues, as well as the new Tool Ferguson, and I'll get a Transit at some point in time too, but more than likely I'll just wait till that shows up here at my local hobby shop, because that guy, being all cars, does get quite a bit of Italeri stuff in the truck line, so this will be distributed, through its normal channels from Italeri. And guys, I think that's probably about it. It's a rainy mess of a week here, weekend here in Pennsylvania. It rained all day Thursday, all day Friday. It's still raining today. My wife's got the next 6 days off, so I figured I'd get some bench time in, since I have a little more freedom when she's home. And the first 2 days of that have been a washout. So we'll see where we get the rest of this week. Anyway, guys, congratulations to the winners from our 400th subscriber giveaway. We did like a little minute-and-a-half video of that yesterday and put up the winners. Mr. Bergeron, Mr. Jacques Bergeron, if you're watching this video or the last video, again, please get a hold of me somehow for your shipping information. Didn't hear from you yet, but of course it's only been like a day. I'm not going to be one of those, you didn't contact me within 24. No. But if you do see this, at least comment in the comment section that you're trying to figure out how to get a hold of me or something, just so I know that you've seen it. If anybody knows Jacques personally off of YouTube, tell him that he won so he can get a hold of me. And have a great weekend. We'll see you guys on the other side.